Kvällens program presenterar en pjäs som heter Love and Other Things Like Fidelity av Gita Hacham, som tyvärr inte är med oss längre. Jag ska strax prata lite kort om henne. Kvällens program är producerat av Communication Word Productions i samarbete med G Actors Agency och med stöd av Kulturrådet. Det här är lite personligt här nu för mig. Jag träffade Gita för 2 år sedan och hon är här bland oss. Hon är magisk. Hon jobbade väldigt aktivt för att jobba med frågor som inkludering och andra perspektiv och andra typer av historier. Och hon såg verkligen fram emot den här dagen. Och därför vill jag också bara säga att det är så otroligt viktigt med vilka ord vi presenterar på en scen. Vems ord, vems perspektiv, vems berättelser. Vem får gestalta i Sverige idag? Vi är otroligt glada att vi fick kontakt med hennes son som berättade för mig att hon hade gått bort. Jag fick tyvärr inte tag på henne. Och jag är otroligt glad och ärad att vi fick sätta upp den här pjäsen här ikväll. Med oss på scen har vi vår regissör Manuel Concha som ska berätta lite mer om det arbetet. Det jag kan säga kort är att de fick pjäsen samma vecka. De har fått repa 3 gånger. Och ja, de är lite ambitiösa så att de har nog kanske träffats några fler gånger. Men det känns fantastiskt att få presentera det här för er idag. Och jag hoppas att ni får en trevlig upplevelse. Tack!
Hej, jag ska fatta mig kort för jag heter Manuel, jag är regissör för det här ni ska titta på. Jag har aldrig regisserat pjäs innan, jag är bara film egentligen. Men när jag läste manuset så tyckte jag att det var väldigt intressant. Det handlar om manlighet, det handlar om sex, kärlek, utanförskap, rasism, rätt mycket grejer här. Men jag tyckte att det var väldigt intressant att höra 5 olika karaktärer som har olika bakgrunder och pratar och enas om de här sakerna. Så att jag hade ingen tidigare erfarenhet av författaren, men jag tyckte att det här var väldigt intressant. Så det här är en reading, jag måste bara klargöra det. Det är inte en fullständig pjäs, men det kanske ni har varit med om andra helger och sådär. Men vi har försökt göra det så levande som möjligt och jag hoppas ni tycker om det. Nu kommer skådespelarna. Vi kan ta ut dem. Välkomna. Jag tänker att jag presenterar dem i karaktärsnamn. Eller så här, robot spelar robot. Det är enkelt. Nurbo spelar Mohammed. Christian spelar Walter. Förlåt, det här är en pjäs som är översatt från holländska. Så det var holländska namn. Det är därför det blir lite förvirrat i mitt huvud. Men han heter Walter nu. Bra, va?
Wouter heter han i originalet.
Wouter heter han innan. Mathias spelar Jerome. Och Tiam Hacham. Inte Håkan, utan Hacham. Varsågod.
You can only fall in love with a fantasy because you don't know the real girl. You fell in love with the yearning. We drove each other crazy with looks, but we knew that in order to explore our desires, we had to marry. I longed for warmth. I had my books, and I can tell you the best meet-up spot and pick-up spot was the library. But still, there's a big difference between the real world and the world I read about in my books.
I was in love with my teacher, my school teacher. So of course, nothing happened there. And after her, I fell for a girl in my class. I gave her my cookies during break. Now, you just want to be close to someone like that, right? I thought she was sweet, but I couldn't tell her that. I brought her home and I gave her many little presents. It was tough because she was, after all, out of my league. Not because she was Swedish, you know, but because it was just a teenage crush. That's just how it goes at that age.
I did everything and anything to get her attention. I hung out with the baddest guys on the block. Almost gave my parents a heart attack. Anyway, I hung out with those gangsters. Though, it wasn't my kind of thing, because actually, I'm a pretty gentle guy. I have no idea if she noticed. In any case, I asked around if she liked me, but nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. Until one time when we danced. Wow, man. My heart went crazy. I wished it'd never end. Us dancing. So close. So close. She was so close to me. But I was the perfect gentleman. I didn't dare do anything. I loved us dancing. And I loved to dance with her. And the song ended and I said absolutely nothing. I didn't say a single word. Not a single word. I didn't dare to. I didn't dare to do anything.
I did nothing with it until I was 16. I didn't even know that the word love existed. I worked in a spa where there were many tourists. I was fresh out of boarding school and I was green as grass. Never sat so close to a girl. About a week later, I lost my virginity, but still, I was not in love. I did feel affection for the girl, but it wasn't love. I didn't understand what being in love meant. Yeah, I didn't know how I was supposed to feel. It took at least another year before I started feeling those butterflies in my stomach for the first time.
I wish I could say at least one time that of course I'd been in love as a child. Because one would think that everyone had gone through it, or everyone has experienced the feeling of being in love during their childhood. Of course. But I wish I had a good answer.
The first time my love was answered, that was so nice. You know, you must know, for 6 years, I yearned for a particular girl. It took a lot of searching before I could find a way to express even a little bit of that yearning. Even then, I was very slow, merely waiting. Because you see, she took the initiative. She saw right through me. She already knew for quite some time that I had feelings for her. So one day, she asked me, and I was so happy because I couldn't express myself. I couldn't show my feelings. I didn't know how to. But I did know how to slow dance. So I said, come on, let's dance.
No one even mentioned love in my home. No way. I mean, I learned real quick that committing oneself, attaching oneself to another person was actually extremely dangerous. I mean, love in our house? Come on. Hate and resentment was more like it. And to top that off, they said, well, we're together for the children. I'm like, thank you very much. That really did us a lot of help, right?
Yeah.
There's no way to get around this, that getting attached to someone is dangerous as hell. And that thought that feeling, that's something I've suffered from throughout my entire life.
I learned that love is very important. Love and loyalty for the person whom you interact with. You must do everything for your family. Always be there for them. I saw this at home. Whenever someone in the family was in need, everyone jumped in to help.
Yeah.
And between man and woman, love between your parents for each other, not much was said about that. But I saw it. They were very caring for each other. She stood up early in the morning to make coffee for him, and he earned money for us. He protected the house. Love means caring for each other.
The only thing I saw around me were fixed roles for men and women, which had nothing to do with love. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But hey, love is no guarantee for a successful marriage, right? A good marriage, well, the only guarantee is that if you stick to your given roles, right? Everybody has to stick to their given roles. Love has nothing to do with having a woman. No. The only love that exists is love that transcends reality. Love on paper, in books, star-crossed lovers' destiny, and love for your motherland.
Nowadays, my father says he's lucky to have found such a good one. Now he says that at the age of 65. But I never saw any love between them, you know?
No, right.
Never saw any love when I grew up as a child. Yes, my mother, she slaved for him, worked her bone to the bones. And that was her way of showing love. And he told him, she told her, he told him, he told her a lot of stories. I think that was his way of showing love. But no touching, hugging, no nothing. Anything of that sort. Never.
Well, family is important. But I can't remember ever seeing any displays of affection between me and my parents. Or between my parents. My father did have other women, I found out, only in hindsight. But no one spoke about love, and you didn't see it either. We didn't talk much about feelings at home. They were very, very strict. That's the reason why I've become very soft. I see it with my own children, for example. I talk a lot with them. I tolerate a lot. The same counts for my wife. I can't hold her back anyway. She is, after all, also a human being with her own opinion. Now, my brother, on the other hand, is the exact opposite of me. He is, in fact, very possessive over his wife. And he has to stay in control, also when it comes to household chores. It has to go his way. His clothes must look sharp. He irons his clothes every day, not because he is that emancipated, but because he doesn't want to be dependent on a woman. He also vacuums every day. Seriously, you can eat off the floor up there. Sometimes I sit there and I look at him and then I think, oh man, relax.
Being faithful has nothing to do with being in love.
And being unfaithful has nothing to do with being in love.
My father used to joke about my cousin Justin all the time. You know, he was quite a playboy. And my father always had ironic jokes about him. I mean, we were raised as very strict Christians. You know, a man and a woman. That's the way it was written in the Bible. So, but I saw no love in church. You know? I did think it was pretty exciting that my cousin had so many girlfriends. I also went through a phase where I wanted to be just like that. I already knew what the word mistress went when I grew up. But it was only when I became 16 that I understood the meaning of mistress. I listened to them, you know, those players, and all their boasting. It was fun to listen to, And suddenly I understood that the man was being unfaithful to his woman. Actually, I didn't find that normal. It sounded exciting, but, thinking about it is one thing, but doing it is another.
Being faithful is extremely important. I learned that at home. It is about finding the right person. Divorce is something you should really try to avoid. A man should never beat his wife, and she must come from a good family. It is not about money. It is about honesty. The family must have a good track record, if you know what I mean. But those kind of rules do not apply to me. That is how it was for them. I hang out with who I want, and I will also choose whom I want. I want someone who is faithful. Of course I do. In the beginning of a relationship, you always talk with each other about those kind of things. But actually, you just automatically expect the other person to be faithful. Well, that wasn't my experience. She started something with my best friend, the woman with whom I was involved. She said it meant nothing to her.
I never felt guilty for having other girlfriends. I just didn't. Why? I was never in love with them, so why should I worry, right? I thought that's between me and the woman whom I'm involved with at that time, I thought as long as my wife didn't know anything, I didn't cause her any physical pain, so how am I the bad guy? I didn't feel guilty for her. I didn't know how I was actually hurting her.
After I had cheated on her, I told her almost immediately. I felt so guilty. I felt awful and despicable. Actually, that was the main reason why I told her. I did not want to feel guilty anymore. But even when I got it off my chest, I still felt awful. Still. It really sucks. But such is life.
I really tried to be a bit of a player. I would start one relationship and then break it off quickly to start another one. That I could actually handle. Several relationships, one after the other. But I just couldn't bring myself to have more than one relationship at the same time. I couldn't keep a clean conscience. I got completely confused, and it took too much energy. Plus, I'm way too lazy for that kind of thing. And at a certain moment, you got to ask yourself, is it really worth all the effort?
Well, being faithful depends on your freedom of movement, right? Your possibilities, whether you can get away with it or not. Social control, that's what it's all about when it comes to being faithful. I've actually thought extensively about this. Look, men cheat more often than women, sure. They're more unfaithful. But that's because they have the freedom to do so. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any difference, right? For example, after giving birth, the woman stays at home in bed and rests while the man is out at bars. That's not because he's more of an animal than she is. It's just that he has the possibilities. He gets them. He takes them.
There is a myth that men who are immigrants cheat more than men who belong to majority. Is that true? Well, honestly, I really wouldn't know. I'm not a sociologist, you see. I'm an economist.
Well, sir, of course you know these stories. Black men are very charming, take good care of themselves, they make an effort for the women, and every single one of these black men cheat. White men, on the other hand, they have no manners, they are incapable of being charming, they have bad taste, makes no effort for their women, and they never cheat.
Yeah, true.
Well, I guess that's how it is.
Well, we do pay more attention to our looks, men of color. That's true.
Well, we also look much better. My friend Peter always says, I have an image to uphold, and everybody has their basic need. Well, that is what the one-night stand is for. Of course, he's just scared. But still, I admire how he manages to pull it off, each time. My way is very different. I wait very passively. I'm a good listener. Women always tell me that I am very huggable. They are very quick to sit with me, sit by me, and touch me. You know, and yeah, I definitely won't say no to that, but I can't do it on purpose. Really, I have always been very calm, and I can't help that I'm a bit chubby, you know. I'll say it like this. Being calm attracts women.
Really?
I don't get it.
Well,
So you just do nothing? Just absolutely nothing.
How shall I put it? Say you go into a TV shop and there are 10 TVs, 10 images that keep on moving all the time. Snow noise, etc., you know. But one image stands still.
Yeah.
At a certain moment, that image will get the most attention for it stands out. That particular image. That's me.
Yeah, I agree. That's how it works.
I would never take the first step.
Then you don't burn your fingers that easily,
That's true.
right? You know, I've always had girlfriends, but I'm the kind of guy who, just like you, I wait patiently, right? I think I'm quite naive, actually. When I'm around the biggest female flirt, I don't even get that. It's crazy. There was once this secretary in the office where I worked, and she said, "Let's have dinner. Come over to my place." And I was like, that'll be fun, I thought. And it was fun. And we had dinner, we sat down, it was romantic, and then I left. I just went home. You know, that's how I am. Maybe I'm just really careful or really naive. But once it happens, once there's a spark, I'm totally and completely sold.
when I was young, I wanted two things. I wanted to save the world, you know, be a kind of a hero.
Superhero?
Yeah. And I wanted to be hopelessly in love, like forever and ever.
The first spark. I used to have those kind of romantic visions, you know. I will conquer the most beautiful woman in the world, and I will do everything for her, do all kinds of possible things to please her. Climb the highest mountain, cross the deepest sea. I walked in clouds when my first love was with me.
We were both very good at basketball. Me, my first love, and I. The one I longed for 6 years. Remember, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did everything she did. I read the books she read. We went to the movies she liked. We did everything together. We were each other's first lover. That was very difficult for her. You know, you see, she also came from a very Christian family, but she had more trouble with it than me. I mean, I have already seen at the age of 13 that there was no love in church. So I didn't pay much heed to whatever they said. But I did notice that she found it very difficult. And I felt really bad for her. But at the same time, at the other hand, I felt that what we had was nothing to be ashamed about. I mean, what we had was something very special. Not something to be ashamed about. Pretty soon after that, she got a sports scholarship to study in the US. I mean, after that I trained so hard. After she left, I went from being an average basketball player to be a professional basketball player. I threw out all my frustration on the field.
Good for you.
You know?
Yeah.
Her departure was good for my sports career, but still, I really miss her. Years had passed since we saw each other again.
My first marriage was a huge mistake. Yes, because of tradition. You come together with different ideas in your head, you know, how a man should behave, how a woman should behave. It was a disaster. Both of us glorified sex, but in completely different ways. Our expectations were completely different from one another's. Disaster indeed. But I didn't think so then. I thought this is how it's supposed to be, right? The man is supposed to possess the woman, and the woman just gonna give herself up to be possessed. I didn't know that a woman also could feel lust, that she also could feel like she wanted it. As a man, I had to prove myself in bed every time. I had learned that the man decides when, where, how often, and if she for some reason felt like she wanted more of me, then that meant as a man I had failed. If a woman is as lustful as a man, then she can never be unfaithful. I was sure of it back then, and that made me nervous. So very nervous.
My first wife cheated on me. Many, many times. And at first, I didn't have a clue. Everybody else around me knew. Seriously, I was such an idiot. It was so bad that when I went out with my kid for a walk, people would look closely at us to see if my child truly resembled me. So there I stood with the stroller, and people kept looking at the child, then at me, then back to the child, then back at me, and then they would laugh sheepishly. It was really my child. Mm-hmm. You do understand?
Yeah.
It was really my child. But by the way, it still is my child.
Yeah.
And I love my children very, very much.
Yeah.
I remember this time I'd just gotten home from school, and I stood there in the hallway, and I thought I'd heard voices from my dad's study. But this was impossible because neither my mom nor my dad worked from home. So I thought maybe something happened. Maybe they took the day off and, were just throwing it around a little. So I walked softly on my socks towards the study so I could scare them. And right there, on the floor, laid my father with a woman who I didn't recognize at first. Wow. Turned out later on to be the maid. They weren't naked or anything, but clearly something was going on. It's pretty obvious. Yeah. And at first, I remember this, my father really played dumb, and he was, came up with the story that Mrs. Kramer, which was the name of the maid, she had not felt so good, so she was sort of passed out, and he was giving her mouth to mouth or whatever. I'm like, yeah, right. I was only 10 years old. I didn't understand a lot, but I did understand that something was off. He was a liar. Yep. He lied to my mother, he lied to me. And the thing is, I felt it right here. You feel it. And after that, he sent me to boarding school. And I just learned that you should never let anyone get too close.
Women think that a man who can cook and take care of himself is very emancipated. I'll tell you that most Surinamese men can cook really well. White women in particular find that quite extraordinary. But actually, this so-called emancipated man is actually one big macho man. He's not trying to share in the responsibility by cooking and doing household chores. No, man. He's doing it so that he never becomes dependent on a woman. Yeah, that is what it's all about. And he also does it because of what his mother said. You must learn to take good care of yourself. For one day your wife will be leaving you, and then there you'll be on my doorstep, and I ain't having that. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to household chores, the better he is, the more macho he is. Fear of commitment. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Henrik, my brother, he's terrified. He's terrified that one day he'll be overlooked. He gets a new girlfriend like every 3 months. And then he gets dumped. Again and again and again. And he comes up to me and cries on my shoulder, and I always tell him, you want it too much, old boy. You should just relax. Just let it be. Okay, he says. But he just can't. And why? He can't be alone. That is the reason. Either he's always on the lookout for someone, or if he's met someone, he's always clinging onto them so tightly, breathing down their neck, that these women feel cramped. They just can't put up with him. He's a nice guy. I mean, he's really sweet. Honestly, he is. But he's been chasing his dick since the old days. And I used to laugh about it, but the thing is, now it kind of just makes me sad.
I wonder if monogamy would be so obvious if reproduction was so connected to sexuality, you know? Now that the woman takes the pill, sex and fidelity aren't necessarily connected to each other because it's no longer about procreation. Nowadays, it's actually about two individuals meeting each other and being able to be themselves fully. They can rise above the restrictions, you know, rise above background, religion, ethnicity, their pettiness. And that's how complete spiritual freedom comes into being. But of course, it's not always like that. So, pill or no pill, fidelity still becomes thoroughly connected to your ethnicity, especially if you're a man of color. Boys of migrant parents were just brought up more strictly, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we have this bigger need for freedom. And also we're given this weird idea in our head about sexuality. And so we have a stronger need to experiment and hence fool around. It's changing slowly. The idea is becoming less weird among the youngsters, I think. But this development is going to take a long time.
I don't think it makes a difference whether you're a migrant or a second generation.
You don't?
No, at least not in the circles where I mingle, where everyone is more or less cosmopolitan. Black or white, people are beyond that. They are so much more than that. They are not restricted by specific roles. But black diaspora women will not be too direct, and we men have to be more sensitive to that, to those subtle hints. Now listen, a woman might be trying to tell you something by offering to get a cup of coffee for you. It appears to be an innocent gesture, but sometimes an entire world hides behind such an offer to give you a cup of coffee.
She was 15 years older than me. She didn't want a steady relationship and she was very dominant, also in bed. I was fascinated, slightly afraid, if I'm honest. Her freedom was very important to her and she was proud of it, rightfully so. I could be with anyone I wanted. And she had other men. But I wanted only her. On the one hand, I found it kind of exciting, you know. She would tell me about her adventures, all these men she flirted with, and honest to God, it didn't bother me that much in the beginning. I thought, that's none of my concern. And also, they were kind of faceless men in a sort of dim haze. But as time went on, you know, the more connected we got, the more attached I got, the more difficult it became to handle this situation. I became afraid of losing her. At a certain point, I couldn't sleep anymore, I couldn't eat, I had to know where she was, with whom she was, and then I went with her to a bar. I don't know why, but I went with her to a bar and I just observed the situation from a distance. And then something in me just changed. It didn't matter what she did with those men because she'd always come back to me, I thought to myself. I'm better than those men, otherwise she would just stay with them. I grew stronger as a man because of it. I could rise above it. I could understand these men, why they fell in love with her so head over heels. After all, I was also in love with her, but she chose me. She chose me. I will always be grateful to her, you know. She made me more free as a man, as a human being. And I'm a better man because of her.
I had an affair with a married woman once. But eventually she chose her husband. She chose him before me, and yeah, I figured he had more money. Well, let's face it, he had a lot more money. And I was thinking in the meantime, a relationship should really be more than that. Right?
Yeah.
Love and fidelity belong together. But fidelity and love do not automatically belong to each other. Have you thought about that? When I love someone, I want to be faithful to that person. But just because I am faithful to my partner doesn't automatically mean that I love her. Maybe I'm faithful out of habit. Maybe I'm afraid of being alone.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe the love has gone, but it's just easier to be with her. I don't have to work for her. She belongs to me anyway. My mother always used to say, he has more girlfriends than the finger on his hands. My mother used to say it about Henrik. He was so funny. He could wrap them around his fingers so easily. Well, I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I would say it's slightly exaggerated, but it also holds a core of truth. I consciously, as I said, never had many girlfriends. Women just kind of liked me. Only in the last 10 years have I become conscious of me being a charmer. I have a better idea now about what I should say and when, I think. A compliment is very easy to give, and women love compliments. Let me give you an example. A female colleague comes up to me and asks me how I am, and then I'm fine. But now that I've seen you, I'm a lot better.
That's
What?
horrible.
Come on, guys. Why are you
That's
laughing?
horrible.
You use the exact same phrase, don't you? No? Really?
Swedish women do not really appreciate when you say something like that. They give you the look of, what you want?
If you want to start off something with a Swedish woman, you must know how to talk, Yeah, you must know how to talk. They immediately want to know where you're working, how much you're earning, how long you've been working, if you have a steady job, etc., etc., etc.
It's a lot more subtle with the black woman. Making eye contact is very important.
As a man, you have to be able to listen properly and then quickly find out if you have similar interest and talk about that.
You take a white woman out to dinner, and you take a black woman out dancing.
Here.
Of course, you have all kinds of women, but speaking in general, Swedish women like it when you're direct. Easy on the compliments, but yes, please, to political analysis of the state of the world. And you must, at all costs, explain why men of color oppress their women. And why we're so touchy-feely. I mean, this thing, touchy-feely, even, for example, even just complimenting someone is considered as touchy-feely. And that's something you should never be with a Swedish girl. Touchy-feely.
At least not until both of you have had enough to drink, right?
Or after midnight, after a few bottles of wine, then the clinging begins.
When it comes to Siroiney's women, you may touch them, in a subtle way, a hand on the arm just for a second. You better be kind of indirect. You can't be too direct with them. It's better to give them just a hint. As if with Turkish or Moroccan women, well, you have to be totally indirect. And no, keep your hands to yourself, all right?
The Siroiney's woman wants to be conquered. They won't give it up that easily. They are very possessive, Siroiney's women. Swedish women go for it. If it clicks, it clicks. No need to play complicated games, no mishmash. I really like that.
I treat everyone the same. The women whom I interact with are all in the political or scientific field. I like to talk about science and politics.
Really?
Yeah.
Even when you're trying to pick them up?
Yes, even when I'm trying to pick them up, yes. Do you think it is that strange then?
Seems a bit dull to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I treat everyone the same. I give compliments to everybody, and if I had flowers, I'd give every woman a rose.
I have noticed that white men behave immaturely when they try to pick up a woman. Suddenly, they become playful. They tease these women. They physically push them and behave cockily. Very childish, you know. Not at all the way a real man should behave.
Hey, if you want to pick up a woman, you have to be a man. Be a guy. And you can't be too eager, you know?
You should never allow her to notice that you are desperate for her attention.
That's true.
If he's not a player, the white man that is, then he needs a certain amount of alcohol in his system before he can make a move. You really should study them at the bar. And then, after they have a couple of drinks, all their inhibitions disappear into thin air. Anything goes. As I said, you must study them at the bar. I often go out with my Swedish friends, you know, to the bar.
Or at staff parties. Hey,
Or when you go with them to a weekend trip at work, a business conference, and so on.
Hey, guys, what do you think about this? Pay attention. Okay, check it out. Swedish guy is hitting on a woman, you know? He comes up like, hey, come on, girl. Let's have another glass of beer. Oh, man. Don't be so boring, girl. Skål! Cheers! Don't be so difficult. Come on. Let's dance. Party!
or this one. Check this out. May I sit here? Interesting lecture, don't you think? I thought the layout of the folder was very impressive.
Or this one. No, I don't dance. You dance. I just sit here and watch.
Or this one. You want to go back to my place? Or you want to go back to my place or your place? My place. Taxi, do you have a condom? Taxi!
And then the next day, what does the white gentleman say after shooting hoops in another girl's basket? Well,
I was really drunk.
I couldn't help it.
It just took on a life of its own.
I was overcome.
I didn't know what I was doing.
That was never my intention.
She took the initiative.
It just happened.
But that's really how it goes, guys. You know, it really just happens to you, really.
What do we say to this?
As
if you weren't there.
Well, yeah.
And what do they say to the missus?
Ladies, pay attention. Here it comes. The words, the very words that should set off all the alarms and raise all the red flags. If he says,
Honey.
What?
Honey, we.
What?
Honey, we need.
We need to.
Honey, we need to.
Honey, we need to talk.
Bingo.
Black men does not show off to impress women. They do it for the men. It's for them they have to score. Black men, they use women, you know, sometimes to brag about.
But that's where our mistake lies. We talk too much. We give ourselves away by talking too much without even thinking about what we're saying. Listen, when a white man cheats, he still makes sure he is home in time for dinner. We, on the other hand, come home 2 hours late, and to top it off, we also smell like perfume. It's stupid. It's really stupid.
Women do the same thing as those white men. If a man is kissed by a strange woman, he doesn't wipe the lipstick off his lips so that his buddies can see it and ask questions. A woman, on the other hand, removes the smudged lipstick immediately. It's all because of black slavery. Men and women were taken apart. What? Hear me out.
What?
You could be sold just like that. It is not traditional to stay together. Children didn't know their fathers, and fathers didn't know their children. Loving someone was dangerous. You could lose your beloved just like that. And even though slavery has been abolished 150 years ago, it is still the main reason why black men have trouble being faithful. They just can't allow themselves to get attached. That is the reason why black, Surinamese, and Antillean men are unfaithful.
But
You're laughing.
That's kind of like saying that Swedish men don't need to score. We're already in just by existing. And men from other cultures have to keep on proving themselves, like, hey, look at me, I'm okay, I'm good. Okay, I exist. You don't want to see me? I'll make you see me. You know, there's something with like lots of noise, lots of color, lots of women. At least it's something you can't do right. I mean, that's what they say, these men from other cultures. They want to be seen. And that is the reason why Turkish and Moroccan men are unfaithful.
Hey.
White men, they doubt their manliness. They can't never go crazy. Taking care of the household the entire day is not macho enough. They want to play the hero. Feel admired, being manly. Experiment sexually, being tough, being macho man. They have to prove that they still got balls. And that is the reason why Swedish men aren't faithful.
We men want to be immortal. And the only means we have in order to achieve that is to have as many children as possible with as many women as possible. It's biological. That's the only reason men cheat. All men.
They play on the need for attention. That's what they focus on. You know, those long-term planners, those players. They have a vast knowledge of women, and they make good use of it. And they take their role very seriously. Actually, they're not playing a role. They are their roles. It's dead serious to them. They're addicted to that kick, you know? But I like looking at them, you know, kind of like an amusing phenomena, like a circus attraction. Look, they are smooth talkers. They scan the room, right? Like this. You know, a player can sell their act really well. Like, stop shouting.
What's up?
No, it's more like this. It's like, well, to think that a man and a woman should be treated the same, if you think so, you're just crazy in your head.
Man, you're
Speaking of head, girl.
Oh.
You guys are complicating it too much. I would just, look down, give a wink, then you got her.
I know how this goes.
You?
All right, it's all right. Oh, look at this. You get what I mean? It's a bit like this. Back in my day, we still could smoke. There you go. It's easier back then.
Guys, pay attention. You can learn something from this.
Okay.
This is how it goes. Take out a rose.
Again with the rose.
You're too cheesy, man.
Oh,
Good Lord.
And that's how you do it.
Nice.
That doesn't work.
I was in a relationship with a married woman. I told you guys before, right? I was the intruder. Let's be honest. I was. And it did last a couple of years. The relationship, I mean. Of course, it was very exciting at first, but actually, it was also simply exhausting. At a certain point, I wanted her to choose for me, but she didn't want to. So, yeah. We broke up a couple of times. It was too hard to stay away from her, so she said, let's just be friends. And I said, fine. But who's fooling who here? We couldn't stay off each other. We were right back in bed before we knew it. I was actually quite miserable, though. I hope I never go through anything like that again. And at a certain point, I gave her an ultimatum. I told her, you gotta choose. And she did. She chose her husband, who had more money, a lot more money, and there I was thinking, there has to be more to a relationship than that.
I've never been unfaithful. My method is to quickly end the relationship at the one I'm in at the very moment, as quickly as possible. So, basically, break up with one girl in the morning, and then jump in the bed with another one in the evening.
You're crazy.
Serial monogamist, that's what you can call me.
If you're alone for a very long time, then your standards go down. then at some point you become happy with any kind of attention you get. And that's when things go wrong.
Sad.
I can go very far with my imagination. That's where I fully come to life. And I can do whatever I want through my art. When I'm painting, I can just for a moment, make time stand completely still. I need to have a place where I can create a spiritual sanctuary for myself, and that's something I've been looking for my whole life. I come from a family where no one spoke about emotions. Never mind that you as a man couldn't even talk about something if you were confused about. I've never learned how to deal with my emotions. I didn't know that there was something to deal with. And that, just like all men, especially men of color. So it appears as if us men don't have any problems because we don't talk about it. Of course, we feel pain as well, just like women. We just handle it differently. Or rather, we don't handle it at all, and that leads to us being unfaithful. At least that's how it was with me. I truly didn't know how I was hurting my wife. Sometimes I wish I could make time stand still. You know?
If everything was going well in my relationship and my girlfriend would cheat on me once, well, then I could live with that. I mean, if the rest works between us and it was a one-time thing, if it was only about sex, well, sex isn't everything. It is already difficult enough to have a healthy relationship. There are worse things in life.
Yeah, well, honestly, if my girlfriend was cheating on me, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't. I'm quite the jealous type. I'll admit it. You know, I just don't show it. But you know, maybe I won't show it directly to her. But at the same time, if she's trying something, if somebody else is trying to impress her, I'm gonna give him the look. You know, the look.
What look?
If looks could kill, that's the look. And really, in that case, I'll make sure she sees it as well, just to make a point that I'm not going to take that. This is serious. I wouldn't stand for it if she began something with someone else. At least, yeah, that's what I'm saying right now. Of course, you never really know exactly how you would react until it happens, but what I would definitely never do is say, you go be free, you do you. You do whatever you want, you know, hang out with whoever you want, just call me and I'll bring you home. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. You know, that doesn't work for me. I experienced it myself once. I was pretty young, but yeah, that's when it hits you the most. The other boy had more money than me, way more money. And he was walking around in this neat suit, one of those, you know, charmers. And he had a big mouth and all kind of, you know, little charming things to charm the ladies. And yeah, apparently my girlfriend at the time really enjoyed that. So I found out, and it was finito. There was nothing to talk about. End the relationship. I was like, fuck off. I don't need that kind of crap.
Well, being in love does crazy things with you. Suddenly, without me noticing, I was sitting in the couch beside her every day watching reality shows. I never used to watch soaps before I got to know her. But I was in love. When you go along with everything, you know, nowadays, you know, we come to the point where I don't have to watch Big Brother. When I get home from work, I simply ask, hey, how's it going with Jeff? Is he still with Chantel? You know, I really did my best, but I just can't stand these shows.
Love is blind, Habibi.
See?
Paradise Hotel.
X on the beach.
Married at first sight.
Being in love is annoying. For only when you're halfway into the relationship, do you find out who the other person really is, and then, by then, it's probably too late.
Yeah. I love laying together on the couch, you know, with the television on, drink within reach. I just love snuggling.
Those reality shows, I just can't bring myself to watch them. I would rather watch a film like Dangerous Liaisons, a film about A man and a woman who makes a bet with each other and then together, but still apart, through cunning and deceit, try to seduce a young, innocent, and naive little girl.
Oh, I think I know those kind of movies too, with sweet, naive little girls.
That's not the point. It's not about the girl. It's about the morality of others. It is about the mood, the tension, the process.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Never mind.
Basically, women always used to flirt with me. I'm just way too shy to talk about it.
It is actually quite nice when a woman takes the initiative. It is good for my ego. I feel honored. It is nice to feel that you're wanted.
I actually find the whole idea regarding virginity kind of perverted. I mean, seriously, what intelligent, grown-up man wants a virgin in bed? And I mean a real virgin, not someone who's pretending, someone who's done anything and everything except that one thing. No. A girl. Not a woman, but a girl who's scared and insecure. Someone who's in pain and furthermore has no idea. Someone who's learned that sex is bad and only tolerates it because that's how it's supposed to be. A girl who turns her face away and just waits until you're done. Now seriously, who would want something like that? I also want for her to desire me as well.
I'm perfectly happy with women who take the initiative. I need something to hold on to.
I'm perfectly happy about emancipation. I always say, I'm available.
At some point, I really started to doubt my manliness. Once I had something with one of the assistants at work at the institute. Her work was very neat. She was very precise. A Swedish girl. We went out once and then went to her place, and one thing led to another. We get busy and landed in the bedroom. Suddenly she gets up, calmly takes off her clothes, and tells me to do the same. She walks over to the bed and takes off the blanket, and half of a sudden she takes a towel out of the closet and she puts it like this. In the middle of the bed, like this, so very precise. She takes a condom out of the drawer and she gives it to me. Okay. In the meantime, it has become very quiet. She then goes and lays down right in the middle of that towel, exactly like so. And there I stand, completely naked, with that condom in my hands. Well, it didn't work out.
Oh no.
I met my first wife after being alone for a very long time. Or actually, she met me. She was totally wrong for me. I can say that now. But at that moment, I was so happy with all the attention she gave me.
If you've been lonely too long, then you really start missing being intimate with someone. I desperately started longing for that warmth. And the longer I stayed alone, just like you, the lower my standards became. I noticed I really want a girlfriend, but I just can't succeed in building a long-term relationship. My family says nothing about it, but my brother and my sister, they are both married. I have chosen my career, but that shouldn't shut out a relationship, right? I'm afraid I'm just too boring.
Well, the little word sex is in fact a huge word. 3 letters that can have enormous consequences.
Rituals. The game of seduction. That's what makes you be unfaithful. You know, in order to create the tension again.
It's from my sister that I learned these things, how a woman experiences these things.
What?
She's now twice divorced, which doesn't look good in our community. But the men she was married to, they were assholes. I've learned a lot from her grief. You know, my sister, she's a very intelligent woman. And the women with whom I dealt with were also very smart, and still, it always went wrong in the end. Once a man opens up, he can truly see the story from a woman's point of view. I saw her scars. I wanted to put ointment on them and make them disappear. You know, after all, it's my baby sister. But of course I couldn't do that, so I just learned to put myself in her shoes instead. It was eye-opening, to say the least, and I'm very grateful for my sister for speaking so openly to me about it, but I started seeing men through her eyes. And you know what? Men are real bastards.
One day, my fiancée, she came home from church. She said that she had to work on herself. Okay, I thought. But I should have sensed that trouble was brewing. She said so sweetly, "You know I love you, but for now, we will not have sex anymore."
What?
What?
Yeah. That. I completely closed off. I thought, okay, this will pass, right? But it didn't. But she didn't even want to sleep in the same bed. I was allowed to touch her, but not like that, you know? She was so happy. Meanwhile, I thought, are you out of your mind? What has got into your head? But I also started doubting myself.
Of course.
That she didn't find me attractive anymore. That I wasn't good in bed. She said it wasn't me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. But in the meantime, I was not allowed to kiss her on the mouth. I started feeling more and more miserable, and in the meantime, she was positively glowing. Whatever she needed, she got from the Lord, she said. And there was one more thing, but she had to work on it first, she said, before she could tell me. She suggested that we lived as husband and wife, but we would treat each other as brother and sister. I was totally in shock. I told nobody about this at first, but I mean, how do you explain something like that? But I have a very good friend, and he knew something was bothering me. So I told him the story, and he immediately thought that my girlfriend was unfaithful with me because she didn't want to have sex with me. But I said, she is only going to church. And that is exactly what worries me. 3 months. 3 months. It came out. She had become a lesbian.
What?
Become. How can you become something like that? That is what you are, right? I mean, that's not what you become. But this best part, she said that in itself, she was very, very happy with me, and that she felt she was not in need of another kind of relationship. She wanted to stay with me, but no sex. Have you completely lost your mind? What do you mean don't scream so loud? I'll scream whenever I like. This can't be true. And don't you start again with that God. If you do that, then... And children. I want to have children at one point.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
I am, after all, a human being. I need warmth. I need to be touched. And sex is surely normal when you're living together. And no, the Lord does not fulfill me.
It's not the Lord,
Fucking
baby. It's Lorraine.
hell.
It's Lorraine. It's not the Lord, baby.
Lorraine,
Yeah.
what about me?
Crazy.
What about me? At least I wish you could have cheated on me. Then I could have at least beaten the shit out of somebody.
Yeah.
I felt so rejected. You have no idea. I took it personal. I love this woman. I became entirely blocked. I was like, how could you make this up? Telling me you love me, you know, keep seeing each other, loving each other, but still not being allowed to touch one another. I felt seriously jilted. And thank God for my best friend. At a certain point, I broke it off. I broke off all contact with her.
Good for you.
Yeah. I couldn't live with it. It hurts too much to see her.
We had a bunk bed, my brother and I. My uncle and his new wife were supposed to stay with us for a week. My uncle slept beside my little brother, and his wife slept beside me in my bed. I was 9 years old. We laid on the bed. My bed was quite narrow. I wanted to sleep, but you had that type of long blonde hair that took over the entire pillow. Yeah. I pushed it away. Thought it was stupid that I had to share my bed with my aunt. But hey, we had a small house and it was very normal that people stayed over. It happened all the time. I heard that the others were already sleeping. My uncle snored really loud and my brother was breathing quietly. I closed my eyes. I was tired. All of a sudden, I felt her hand on my shoulders, on my back. I had no idea what was going on. I thought she didn't have enough space or something, so I moved over. But she kept coming after me. She came and laid very close to me. At a certain point, I was flat against the wall. I had nowhere left to go. She put her hand on my mouth, and she whispered in my ear, "Do not make a sound, and nothing bad will happen to you." I could smell her sour breath. What nothing bad will happen? What are you talking about? I wanted to say. But I couldn't make a sound. She held my mouth shut with her hand, and with her other hand, she touched me all over my body. I could barely breathe. She pushed her body against mine. I was completely pressed against the wall. It hurt. What? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? What did I do? I'm feeling nauseous. Her breathing is so strange. Get away from me. Don't touch me anymore. I have to throw up. Stop it. Stop it. Why are you pretending to be nice? Why doesn't anyone hear me? Mama, I call out in my head. Mama, it hurts. She whispered weird things in my ear. I'm suffocating. At a certain point, she removed her hand from my mouth and I could breathe again. But now she had two hands free to grope me. I froze up completely. I didn't move a muscle. I closed my eyes real tight. So tight that I saw stars. She's so heavy. I'm suffocating. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. During the day, she behaved so sweetly. I was in total panic. For 5 nights in a row, she raped me. I was 9 years old. No one will ever believe you if you tell them, she whispered in my ear, as she stood in the doorway with my uncle ready to leave. Nobody. And then she gave me a kiss on the cheek, with a sticky lipstick, and I swallowed and I gritted my teeth, but I refused to give her a kiss goodbye. My parents insisted on it, but I did not do it. They couldn't understand. My mother slapped me, but I did not do it. I was 9 years old. I was alone for a very long time after that. I couldn't allow people to touch me. I just couldn't. I kept what happened to me a secret for more than 20 years. No.
I never had long-term relationships. If anyone threatened to get too close, I broke it off immediately. If it got too close, I was gone. I didn't feel a thing when that happened. I didn't want to worry about anything. If a fight broke out, I just walked away. I always chose the path of least resistance. I didn't know what love was. I had never really experienced it until I met Clara. Yeah.
She was having an affair with my best friend for weeks. I thought I picked up on something, but I thought I'm an emancipated man. I shouldn't be so suspicious. I myself do not like jealous women, so I control myself too, but there were those kind of small signals, little lies, coming home too late, too often, you know what I mean. I should have never asked her if I only kept my mouth shut. I thought, there you go, I'm not good enough. With my best friend, man, my ego took a huge blow. But I had to know, and I already knew. She told me in a very calm manner. She said, yes, it has been going on for some time now. I feel very good about it. He's good for me. He gets me much better than you do. Yes, I was planning to tell you, she said. But I didn't feel that the time was right yet. And while she was telling me this, she looked at me ever so calmly and sweetly. Look, I always say, people have the right to know the truth, you know? You shouldn't think for someone else, but shit, man, sometimes ignorance is a bliss. She looked at me with those big brown eyes and said, sweetheart, you deserve the truth. I can't stand you anymore. And in fact, I actually never really, really loved you.
Wow. I noticed that the woman who I'm loved, she loved brownies. Yeah. So I made sure that I had a brownie with me each time that we saw each other. At a certain point, she finally noticed. I like cooking for someone. My specialty is Indonesian. When I'm in love, I slave over the kitchen. I play endless tapes of romantic music, and I write a lot of bad poetry. And, of course, I give her a rose.
I never give flowers, especially when I'm in love. I think flowers is so overrated, so mundane. For me, giving flowers is just a cheap, ordinary gesture.
When I get to know someone, I always take her to an old-fashioned restaurant with live music. That's what I love. Some of these modern restaurants, they look like cafeterias built in a factory. I mean, come on. How are you going to have some kind of romance in a place like that? I pay attention to what she likes, and then I'll buy something along those lines for her. And I'll always, always add a rose to it.
My man.
I make mixtapes.
Ooh.
Especially for her. You know, the music that's on it could be anything and everything. But actually, the songs are chosen very carefully, and these are only songs with special lyrics. My hope is that she picks up on those lyrics, of course, and it's actually a kind of message from me to her. And furthermore, delicious food, walk in the park, some candlelight, and I always add a rose.
First, we have dinner on neutral grounds. Then we go to the movies, and if it seems to be going somewhere, then I invite her over to my place and I cook for her, just like you. To me, there is a bit of intimacy in it, cooking for each other. I mean, especially in the beginning, I like to experiment in those, in the kitchen. So I never know exactly what will come out of it, but up to now, it has turned out fine. Music in the background. I have all kinds of music. Van Morrison, Moroccan music, Bruce Springsteen. But actually, it's not that important who is singing. The music is mainly meant to background music. When you're talking with each other, you don't really hear the music anyway. And sometimes, just like you, I give her flowers. And if I really think she's very special, I give her a rose.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nice.
I would rather paint a rose than give a real one.
Of course.
Of course.
It doesn't matter the surface, a napkin, a beer coaster, a real big sheet. A real rose is short-lived. I never got the point. It just wilts. While a painting, it can last forever.
It was not my intention to fall in love with someone else. Not that it was going bad. It wasn't going that bad between me and my girlfriend. It went as usual, you know. At a certain point, you learn to live with your annoyances. Then I got to know someone whom I was completely at ease with. We started out as friends. At a certain point, I was always longing for her. When my girlfriend and I had a fight, then I wanted to discuss that with her, the other woman. I mean, a ridiculous situation. In fact, I wanted so badly to be close to her, to feel her body, but at the same time, I didn't dare. For then, you do cross a certain boundary. Are you being unfaithful if you're constantly thinking about another person? Are you actually cheating if you start loving someone else, even if it never was your intention to do so? She made me happy, you know?
We were madly in love, Clara and I. We worked together. I was 20 and she was a woman of the world in my eyes. She was from Italy. She had traveled all over the world and she had hitchhiked all the way to Sweden. I followed her everywhere. In my eyes, she was the most world-experienced woman at 26. I'd never felt this way for anyone before. I had no idea that love could be so beautiful. We did everything together. I also wanted to be with her all the time. In the beginning, she was a bit aloof. She kept me at a distance. And I didn't understand why, but I thought maybe she's just being careful. There's no harm in that because I know this is going to be the woman for me. I wanted to live together, to get married, to have children, the whole shebang. But she just laughed when I suggested that, I love you. And she answered in her own special way, I love you too, but we will never live together. I thought she was joking. I've always had a lot of patience, so I said, okay, I can wait. Because I know that you are the woman for me. Off and on, Clara would withdraw. I wasn't allowed to see her. I didn't know why, but she said she wanted to be alone, and I felt there was something else going on. I sensed it, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Apart from that, I was so happy. So we partied for what felt like an entire year, and by then, I really knew that I wanted to live together. And for the first time, we got into a huge fight. And I thought to myself, I need to stop breathing down her neck. I've become like Henrik, you know? Why was I why did I feel this necessity to be so close all the time? Wasn't it fine just the way it was? Why did I want more? She was so very happy. She said, why are you trying to destroy my happiness? Destroy? I just want to move on. I didn't think I was asking anything out of the ordinary. My expectations weren't extreme, right? In fact, it's normal that you want to live together when you're in love. I didn't understand why she was so angry. So we didn't see each other for a week. And that was tough. It was really tough. After a week, she comes up to me and says, I'm going to tell you the truth, but on one condition. We're not going to waste too many tears on it, and I want to go on with our beautiful life. I want to enjoy it with you, she said. When it's gotten that far, you cannot follow me. I knew then that it wasn't good. There was something terribly wrong, and I swore I wouldn't follow her. She had cancer. It had spread so far, nothing could be done about it anymore. She was dying. We only had a few months left. And one day I went to pick her up, and she was gone. From one day to another, she was gone. She had just disappeared. I had promised not to follow her. Even if I wanted to, I didn't know where she was. Time passed, and I got a letter from Italy from her parents telling me that she had died. I cursed her, I cursed her. Why did she allow me to love her so much? Why? I stayed alone I stayed alone for a very long time after that. I didn't want to meet anyone. What we had together was so special that there was just no place for any other woman. Everything in me was behind lock and key. My heart was closed. The door wasn't even ajar.
My search for love it's long gone. I need to experience a couple of loves in my life in order to really discover what love really is.
I have no words for love. That's only something I can feel through touch.
You should not talk about love. All that jabbering about love doesn't mean a thing. Love is something you just give.
You should never take anyone for a fool. And definitely not yourself. A real man should have the guts to be honest with himself.
I have noticed that if I give a lot of love to the people around me, that I receive as much love in return. It is truly beautiful.
Vi kan applådera.
Good job. Come.
En ros.
Allt en ros.
Exakt.
Ja, tack. Sprid ordet och tack för att ni var här ikväll. Vi uppskattar det jättemycket. Tack så mycket. Applåd! Du får alla. Just det, jag vill också bara säga tack till Gita som är med oss med sina ord. Kanske inte i fysisk form. Det betyder jättemycket att vi fick sätta upp hennes ord här på scen ikväll. Tack så mycket. Bra jobbat. Vad bra ni var.